You're listening to Living Out Loud with my mom, Michelle Flamer. Yep, she's a flamer and proud of it. Get ready to learn about queers in your communities doing great things every week.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Out Loud. Sometimes the people who create the biggest change in the world are the ones who have lived closest to the pain. Today's guest is someone who has spent more than 35 years building businesses, advocating for others, and asking one very important question: what happens when the systems designed to protect families no longer working for them? Ron Platt is a lifelong entrepreneur whose career has spanned insurance, real estate, and social advocacy, but his greatest mission was born through deeply personal experiences as a foster parent and advocate for families navigating crisis, divorce, and instability. That mission led him to create NASDF, the National Association for Single and Divorced Families, a first of its kind organization designed to provide real support, resources, services, and solutions for families who are often overlooked and underserved. Ron is also the creator of an innovative product called Support Insured, the only divorce insurance product of its kind, helping ensure child support and alimony payments ensure child support and alimony payments that continue during life-altering events like disability, unemployment, bankruptcy, or death. But beyond the business, innovation is a much deeper conversation about family, dignity, resilience, and what it means to create systems rooted in compassion instead of survival. This is a conversation about advocacy, humanity, and the courage to turn personal experience into meaningful change. Please welcome Ron Platt. Hi, Ron.
Jazz hands.
Yay, jazz hands. I love that. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. I took a great yoga class this morning, so I'm all zenned out and ready to go.
I love that.
Yeah.
So tell the listeners a little bit about you. I mean, I just did quite an intro there, but just
By the way,
also
much better than mine. You're right. Thank you. I'm going to take yours.
Yeah, I'll totally send it to you. And what I would love to know is, like, for me, from a curiosity standpoint, is like, I always like learning about where people started, came from, their coming out story, which I get so excited about because that's like my favorite thing at a party. Like, I will just start asking people as an icebreaker, like, your coming out story.
Yeah.
And people will really share that, and you get to learn about how someone navigates that, and also a little bit of like their family dynamic, not to like jump into trauma or anything, but more like, okay, I kind of have a better human understanding of you, and I know that you're all about that as well, as far as the human connection. So I would love to just give you the stage now and tell us a little bit about all of that.
How I came out.
Yeah, your coming out story,
Yeah.
your childhood, whatever you want to share.
So picture Sicily, 1932. I was a young girl. Oh wait, no, that's the Golden Girls version. Sorry.
That's great. I love her, by the way, Mama.
How did I come out? So I kind of always knew that I was attracted to men, but
Hmm.
I didn't. No, we were a very conservative family, and I don't mean like Jewish family, but just I knew my parents had sex, but we didn't talk about it. We just knew that they went and took a nap on Saturdays, and there was a lot of giggling going on. I don't know why, but anyhow. Um, so we really didn't talk about it. And I had this attraction. I was also very involved. I was a theater kid. And then when I got into college, I was still doing theater. So I was around a lot of gay people, and I always wanted to be in the dressing room where the men were undressing and stuff like that, but I didn't make the connection.
Wait, how old are you here? Is this junior high, high school? Where
Yep.
are we at?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I uh, got out of college. I didn't even have sex in college because I was still like thinking I needed to be with a woman. And then I got out of college, started dating a lot. And then my secretary had a good friend that worked upstairs, and she kept coming down and we kept flirting. And then I asked her out, and we had a lot in common. And I really thought, okay, I wanted to have a wife at 22 years old and 2 kids before I was 25. I had this whole vision of what my future was going to look like. And she was the perfect person for it. She was okay being an at-home mom and just was like all about having children and stuff. So I was like, okay, this
What are you, Hasidic?
is exactly. No,
I mean, what is that?
I'm just very goal focused, and I
Jewish
thought
too, so
she's
it's like
perfect. And it wasn't just the size of her boobs either, because I'm a boob guy. But it.
most
So
boys are.
yeah, exactly. So we started dating, and I had a car accident, and I broke my leg, and she moved in, and I realized this is a little uncomfortable. I'm not sure I can do this. And I remember calling my buddy who lived around the corner. I'm like, Pat, come pick me up. And he comes over in his 240Z with my cast, and he's like trying to shove me in the car just so I can have a breather. And so I realized shortly after that she and I weren't going to work out. But it wasn't because of the sex, and it wasn't because she was a woman. It was I need somebody mentally challenging. I need somebody to challenge me. We
Okay.
have to be able to debate. We have to be able to have good conversations. I don't care if you're a woman or a man. I need somebody who has their own thoughts and passions and everything else. She didn't have that. So I began to get very bored with it. And when we broke up, I was again in a play. I think I was in my 20s, and I was in a local, I remember it might have been Music Man or something. And I met this guy, and he said, Do you want to come with me to a gay club to go dancing with some friends of mine? I'm like, yeah, okay, great. And I walked into this. So this is end of 1999, 2000. It was in the 1990s. And there was a club on South Beach called Warsaw. And Warsaw was the club, and I sure do miss it. And I walked in, and it was the first time I saw men dancing with men, and it was natural, and it was the first time I walked into a bar and felt completely comfortable.
Mm.
And I looked around and went, oh, okay, now I need to pursue this. So
Uh-huh.
prior to doing that, I had gone out to visit my sister in San Francisco for her birthday, and she had a big birthday party, and the room was filled with gay men. And one of the guys and I sat and started talking with each other, and I was attracted to him, but I still wasn't making the connection. And the minute I went to that club and began processing the fact that I might be gay, I went through a deep depression, and it was
Mm.
because my entire life was about to change. I wasn't going to get married to a woman. I wasn't going to have children. I wasn't going to. And I remember, and I'm not a depressive person, but I remember sitting
But
on
you
my,
were grieving
oh
this
yeah,
belief, this life that you had thought you were going to embark on.
and people noticed that I was depressed. And I didn't say
Wow.
anything. And my sister called and said, so mom says you've been very down lately. Look, if you're gay, come on out to San Francisco. And I was like, what is it with you? And everybody, God damn it, I'm not gay. And I hung up the phone. And then I go to work, and
She was recruiting you
she was straight at the time. And then I go to work, and my friend Pat
at the
with me
time.
at the time,
That's
2 kids, and yeah, I'm not going to go through her story, but anyhow, um, so I'm working with my friend Pat, and he sits down with me, comes into my office, closes the door, and says, "Man, and he's a straight guy, and he's like, I've noticed you've been very, depressed lately, and dude, if you're gay, just come." I said, "What is it with you and my goddamn sister? Get out of my office," you know. So the
great.
first person, when I finally came to realize that I was gay, I sat my stepmother down, of all people, who I trusted most in my life
Aw,
at
that's
that
actually
time.
so sweet.
Yeah, I introduced her to my dad. I met her in Italy on a trip that we were at, and my dad was there, and I sneezed, and she said, "Goes in tight." Not goes in tight, which is,
Right.
right? She says, "Goes in tight." And I looked at her, I said, "We're going to be friends." And she was hysterical, and I thought, this is exactly what my dad needs. And they knew each other, but I kept pushing and pushing, and he finally asked her out, and then they started their relationship. So I sat her down, and she was like, "Okay, what do you want to know?" And I was like, "Well, I mean," she says, "You got to tell your dad eventually, because I can't keep this as a secret." I said, "I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready." So she was good enough not to say anything. I picked up the phone, called my sister. She said, "Come on out to San Francisco." I ended up, she had brought a friend, Ben, over. Ben happened to be friends with the guy I was talking to at the party. He said, "Do you want me to let Greg know that you were interested?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I got on the phone with Greg. Greg's like, "When can you come out to LA?" And I was on the next flight out to LA, and it was perfect. I mean, he picked me up in a beautiful car, took me to one of these fancy restaurants, uh, really had great conversation, got back to his place. Opera was playing in the background, the lights were dim, he had champagne, and And that was my first experience. And I remember waking up in the morning thinking, oh, this is the way it's supposed to feel.
Yeah, you were really cerebrally engaged, as well as that physical energy that only two men can really, just
Absolutely.
much like two women. I mean, like where you meet each other in that
Yeah.
masculinity, that divine masculine space.
Yes.
It's really
And
beautiful,
yeah,
actually.
I was very blessed to have that experience. I mean, there was a prior experience before then, and I thought, okay, that's not working, but this is the one that I tell because this is
Oh.
the better one. And
Are you
uh,
still friends with him today? Like, do you
we
still
are on
connect?
Facebook. I
Oh,
actually,
that's
of
great.
course, I fell very much not in love with him, but I fell in lust with him, and because of the separation, it wasn't feasible, and I kept going out to visit him, and then he started dating somebody else, and we finally stopped talking. But yes, we are now friends, and
Oh,
yeah, he's a good guy,
that's
good guy.
cool.
And
That's
then I came
really
back
cool.
and I was a hoe.
You had your hoe phase.
And what was funny
Everyone
is that
does.
the guy that took me to Warsaw was in the show, and he introduced me to some of his friends. And when I went to California and came back, one of the friends said, "Well, I wanted to be your first." And I'm like, "Dude, like, say something." I would have loved for you to have been my first. I had to go across country to get it. So yeah, it was, and then eventually, I did sit my mother down, and so my mother's
Mm.
French. She's from Belgium, more conservative. I go to dinner with her and I said, "Mom, I've got something I need to tell you." And she's eating. She said, "Yes." I said, "I'm gay." And she put her fork down. She looked up. She said, "Honey, you're not gay. You're just undersexed." And I said, "Not anymore."
Oh, snap.
And she
Was
she
she
looked.
concerned from you from a health perspective? Because I know sometimes they immediately, especially if they're a bit conservative, they immediately go to AIDS.
Well, and it was the height of the AIDS pandemic.
Yes,
You
I'm
know, it was,
guessing that was in the, yeah,
yeah,
you were in
and
the
that was
time
the
frame.
most she was concerned about. And she said, we went for a walk afterwards, and she said, "I don't like it, but you're my son. I love you. Please
Mm,
be careful." And I
mm,
said, "Well, thank God I love myself enough to make sure that that's not how I want to go. So I am protecting myself appropriately and being very cautious about it." And my dad was the last one. So my dad was, there was this weirdness about my father was borderline physically abusive, but also very
mm,
loving. So
mm.
I didn't know what reaction I would get out of him. And here I'm in my 20s, so clearly I control certain aspects of this discussion. But the way the conversation took place is my stepbrother, my stepsister, we were having some kind of pre-family dinner, and they were all in the family room. And my stepmother said, "You have to tell your father now."
Mm.
So I walked in, and everybody's around, and I said, "Dad, there's something I need to share with you." He said, "What?" I said, I told him I was gay, and he looked down and he said, "I'm not happy, but I love you. You're my son. It doesn't
Mm.
change anything." And everybody was like, "Yay!" And then we went to dinner. But my father was really good about it. When I had my first long-term relationship, he was fully in. He hugged him. He had conversations with him. When it after 14 years, it became very toxic, uh, and he was being a bitch, and we were having issues selling the house. My dad actually picked up. So we had a very expensive house at the beginning of the recession. Uh, he hired an attorney. I had to hire an attorney. I call it my undivorce, which I can go into later. But every time we had an offer, his attorney said no, 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 until finally it got to a point where it was net, like there was nothing left, and he was still saying no. And my father picked up the phone and said, "If you don't sign those fucking papers, I'm going to come over there and beat the shit out of you."
Mm.
And I was like, "You go, Dad." And he said, "Well, if you write me a check for $3,000, I'll sign the papers," because there was nothing left. And my dad said, "Fine, I'll write you the check. Just sign the goddamn papers." And he
And
did,
leave.
and that's how it ended. So, he was a big supporter.
Showed
He totally showed up. And when I met my now, when I was dating somebody, we had a family bowling night, and I brought the guy, and my dad was like, "That's the best you can do."
Wow, I love your dad.
He was good. And then when he met my now husband, they hit it off, and he was like part of the family.
That's how
The
you
good stuff
know.
and the bad stuff. Same with my
That's
mother. My
how you
mother gave
know.
him shit just she gave me shit, and he had to yell at her a couple of times to put her back in her place, and he was part of the family. Period.
Yeah, I love that. Is he still alive, your dad?
No, he both my parents have since passed.
Okay, that's what I was kind of gathering by the way you were talking about them. Your stepmom, is she still around though?
She is, and unfortunately, and I love her to death, but when my father and her divorced, we still stayed as a family, and he still came to, again, I have a weird family. Even after his divorce, they still came
It's
around.
not weird. It's literally the way it should be.
Yeah.
I mean,
He brought his new girlfriend into the equation. So I have a funny picture at my nephew's bar mitzvah. It's my dad, my mom, my stepmother, and his new girlfriend. All lined up.
I think that's pretty awesome. I do. I really think that's great.
But when he died, she kind of stopped talking to me, and it
Mm,
was heart wrenching because um, she was. I always thought she was supposed to be the mother that I was supposed to have in this lifetime because we were so in line with each other versus my own mother, who was a bit of a narcissist or borderline.
mm-hmm.
It was much easier with her, so that probably hurt me the most, is
Mm.
not talking to her at the moment. And I could pick up the phone and she'll talk to me, but it's like the family has. I've seen they've had events, they haven't invited me. It's just like I suddenly was eliminated, and I've had that too many times in my own personal family that I don't want to go through that anymore.
Yeah. So now you have chosen family
Yeah,
that really filled the void, right? Isn't
yeah.
it? It's such a beautiful thing, that chosen
Thank
family
God,
piece. I know.
thank God.
Thank God.
And
People who don't
I've had
judge
to
us, they just show up, they're present.
share that with my husband because his when he came out, his family was not happy.
Oh,
And when he met me and introduced me to his mother, she kept calling me that guy until he
mm,
sat her down and said, "So that guy is by now somebody I'm dating and I'm in love with, then you need to call him Ron." But I had to share with him. He's 19 years younger than me, and I had to share with him. You need to find your chosen family, and that was a
what's
weird
the,
concept
what's
to
the male verhim of a cougar?
him. Unintentionally, if you ever meet my husband, he's much older than I am mentally.
Oh, oh.
I have to.
Isn't that amazing when they're just an old soul
Yeah.
like that? They just show up. Like people probably think he's older than you.
If they once they can see he's younger, but I mean, once they get to know him, they're like they call him the adult in the family.
Oh, that's a beautiful compliment,
Yeah.
actually.
When
That's
he
really
turned
sweet. And
40,
you don't mind the Peter Pan thing, so it's all good.
yeah, when he turned 40, I said, your body's this finally the age of your mind, you know. And he said,
Yeah,
no, no, you mentioned that. That's correct. I guess so. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So now like you're how old were you when you met your now husband, and like what was your career arc at that moment? Where were you?
So I went from the insurance industry of 16 years where I was doing lot of different things. I ran insurance companies. I owned insurance agencies. The last part was product development where I was with my dad. He was also in the insurance business, and we were doing very niche type products.
Hmm.
Like hole-in-one insurance, Keno games. I'm going to date myself. Somebody called me for a cell phone warranty, so I put together a cell phone warranty.
Was that when we had the little Nikias and we're like
Exactly.
trying to text? We're like 1, 2, 3, one.
The BlackBerry. And I got a call from Asia going, I had this Asian guy telling me he wants to put together a cell phone. I'm like, why do you need a cell phone warranty? What the hell? This is, it's still with the blocks, you remember? It's like, you want to insure this thing? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you're like, hi. Hey, don't mind me. I'm just carrying around
A
a big
black,
piece of furniture with me.
exactly. So,
An
so that's
accessory.
when my dad actually came up with the idea for the child support insurance, which we were at lunch, and
I
he and
think
I,
that is genius, by the way. I have
it
never
was.
heard of anything like that.
So we're sitting, he was always coming up with ideas, and I'd be like, oh, okay, okay, okay. So he says, I always wanted to come up with an insurance product that would guarantee child support and alimony for death, disability, involuntary unemployment, and
Huh.
business bankruptcy. And I thought, well, that's freaking genius. We had an association at the time we were using for something else. I said, why don't we convert it for people who are getting a divorce, and those products and services can be used for single families and individuals and whatever. Why don't we convert it to that? And he said, that's genius. But
Yeah.
he didn't want to convert the association over until he placed the insurance product. And he tried for 30 years. And so it's a form of credit insurance
Oh,
that you would buy
interesting.
when you get a mortgage or you get a credit card. It would make your payments for up to a year. So he went to those insurance companies and said, I want to use your product for the divorce market. And they said no. And he went through Lloyd's of London, and he just, I mean, this was the vein of his life at the moment at that time, to where eventually we just said we have to pass. So now I get into real estate, and I'll tell you how I met my husband in a moment, but I got into real estate. I go to a seminar. This is a year and a half to 2 years ago. I meet an investor who says, I'm looking for different levels of residual income. I said, how about just one? I've got this great idea. I'd really like to launch it. He said, so I start telling him, and he pursued me when I got back. He said, send me the business plan. So I dust off the business plan. I send it to him. And he goes back and forth with him and his guys for 3 months asking me questions. And then they come back and say, well, if it's such a good idea, why hasn't somebody else come up with it? And I said, well, since we do what AARP does,
Right.
if AARP has 36 million members and nobody's competing with them, why hasn't somebody done that? And he said, no, I get it, but we're going to pass. So I'm pissed. I'm all excited. My assistant now wants to be a part of the company and all that. So I'm going home. My father, who has since passed, downloads. He says, I hear him very clearly in my head say, you don't have shit. Go mortgage the house, start the business, and people will throw money at you. And I sit my husband down, who's risk adverse. I say, look, we got to mortgage the house. He said, what's the worst case, best case? I said, worst case, our mortgage payment's $1,000 more a month. Best case, I create $1 billion business and we give 3/4 of it away to help other people in society and everything else and advocate for foster.
And we pay off the house.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, all right, I know this is something you want to do. Let's do it. So we did that. Shortly after we started the association. A friend of mine who's been part of this journey with me called and said, did you ever place the insurance? And I said, no. And he says, I have somebody I want you to talk to. And the 70-year-old underwriter gets on the phone. 70-year-old underwriters are the original risk takers. They understand the concept of insurance and risk. What do you have? Do you have a policy? You have an actuarial report? I send him all the stuff. 2 weeks later, he calls up and said, this is exactly what we've been wanting. Exactly. So what do we have to do to start this? And I got so emotional when he said that. I remember looking up at my dad going, oh my God, I think I just got this done. Like this was huge. And then we launched. So that's the story.
Who does it benefit? Like, tell me, like, who is the end user, or why would someone actually want to get that?
Sure.
Beyond the most obvious, but
so you always hear about the deadbeat parent who doesn't want to pay. We don't insure that. The state takes care of that. Federal government takes your taxes, all that kind of stuff. There are people that want to pay but suddenly lose their job. They're downsized. AI, right, is taking their job away, or the economy, or what have you.
Sure.
And they need some time to get back on their feet, but they can't afford to make those payments. Or they suddenly become disabled. They have a short-term disability that prevents them from working. Or they own their own business. They own a restaurant, and because of the economy or something, they have to close the restaurant, declare business bankruptcy. That's when we step in and we continue making those payments on their behalf for up to a year to give them that time to get back on their feet.
Wow. And then they pay it back.
No, they don't have to pay it back. It's part of the insurance.
That's amazing.
And the person receiving it can continue getting it because they're they need that money to help offset the cost for the child care and everything else that's going on. And then the association provides free mental health care, provides career services, discount on diapers, formulas, school supplies, early childhood education discounts, just a ton of stuff that we keep adding and adding, plus resources and mediators and attorneys and things like that, divorce coaches, everything you need when you say, hey, I think I want a divorce, but I don't know what to do. Just go to our site and it's all there.
Wow. Is there any other companies doing this insurance? It's still just you.
Just me. And I'm not too concerned about competition because it took me 30 years to get this.
That's what I was going to say. It's like it was a big lift, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing.
When I was doing real estate at the time. I got out of my to your question as to how I met my husband.
Yeah.
I was in a toxic relationship that was something I think we all do. When we are raised with conditional love, we're going to go into a relationship where we receive conditional love.
Oh, you mean what feels familiar?
Exactly. It's what we're used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So of course, I meet this partner, this person, and I feel I have to do a lot. I want to show up. I want to shower him with stuff. I want to give him a good life and all this other happy bullshit. And no matter how much I did, it just wasn't enough. There was verbal abuse, which I was used to. There was never any physical abuse, but there was verbal abuse. And we broke up a couple of times, but kept getting back together. And then I had finally convinced him to open up his own business. I was helping him 100% open it. I was thrilled that he was doing it. And he said, this is so good that I think I want to try living my life on my own for a little while I'm developing this business. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll give you the space for that. That's when my life got really good for those 2 or 3 years that I wasn't with him. And that's when I became a foster parent and started dating somebody who was very, very sweet. And then the ex got sick. He got prostate cancer. And then, of course, the nurturer in me was like, oh, I'll come take care of you. And we got back together. And then I realized he had a drug addict. He became a drug addict. He was also drinking and yada, yada, yada. Anyhow, it was a horrible breakup. And I still have PTSD from it. But I remember when I finally ended it, my sister said, don't date somebody for 5 years. And I thought, that's never going to happen. I'm a gay man. I'm going to get into another relationship. And I met somebody shortly after who was basically somebody who physically looked different but had the same personality. And I remember saying to myself, this feels oddly familiar. What am I not connecting here?
Were you going to therapy or anything at this point?
No.
Okay. Oh,
I broke it
hilarious.
up with him, and that's when the therapy started. But it's also when the recession hit. So I didn't have any money for therapy, but I kept using the techniques that I had a business coach who made me journal, who made me write down my goals, who made me run my
You were
business.
still doing the work.
I'm sorry?
You were still doing the work,
Still
though.
doing the work. And I attribute the fact that I couldn't get a therapist to my journaling because now I'm really pouring my stuff into this journal because that's all I could afford. I literally had no money for food, so all I could do was pour myself into this journal. And while I was pouring myself into it, I sat back and figured out what I wanted in my next relationship and how I wanted to be loved and what I expected and things of that nature, and really started describing the person. And
Beautiful.
when you do that, you have this thing in your head called a reticular activator.
That's right. And some people call it manifesting at that time, and all those types of.
And I'm a huge manifester. I've been doing it my
Yes.
whole life without understanding what manifestation was until, 3
That's
years
right.
ago. But it's so a reticular activator is like when you go to buy a white Volkswagen and all you see on the streets are white Volkswagens.
That's right.
You become hyper focused on it. And that's exactly what I was doing in my journaling, was becoming hyper focused. And then I had a dear friend of mine who at the time said, if you're ready to stop just playing around and have a relationship, you need to start interviewing the dates.
That's right.
What do you mean interviewing? And he showed me the technique of how to interview people when you go on a date. And it worked remarkably well. So I got down to a point where now I'm 5 years into it. I'm ready for a relationship. I'm going to date myself again. There was Adam for Adam was one of the apps. You either had Manhunt or Adam for Adam. So Manhunt was the slut app, and Manhunt, Adam for Adam was a.
Wait, do you remember Plan It Out at all?
No.
Okay, maybe it was a West Coast thing.
Yeah. So I put on there that I was looking for a long-term relationship, and I really I changed my whole problem saying I'll do a one-night stand, but I'm really looking for a relationship. Somebody without, I don't remember what I put, but it attracted. But when I reached out, I saw my husband. I reached out to him. He read my profile. It was what he was looking for. I joked that it took him 2 weeks to respond. So when he finally responded, I forgot who he was. I already gone through a dozen other people.
Yeah, but that's great that you did that too, because so this on a spiritual level is the way that I see it, is like you're basically saying, nope, that's not working. Nope, that doesn't work. And the universe is going, good, we're getting you closer, because now you're really stating what works for you and what doesn't, whether it's the reticulate, whatever you said. I never can get that word right. Anyways, or it's just now your thoughts and your words are aligning.
I have a vision as how I want to be loved.
That's
and my
right.
dates, I could write a book on how funny the dates were at that time.
I bet.
We
could do a whole other episode on just that.
I wanted 40-year-old Jewish this time. I wanted a professional, somebody who had their shit together, preferably owned real estate of some kind, because I was tired of dating somebody that had a studio apartment on South Beach. It's like, I'm 40. I can't be dating people that have studio. It's okay in my 20s and 30s, and I tell my friends this all the time. By the time you get to 40, have a profession. I don't need to make a ton of money. Just have some kind of direction as to what you're doing.
Dating for a boyfriend and dating for a life mate is very different energy.
Yes.
And different questions too.
So I would I would go on dates. I remember this one guy that I had the hots for years, and I finally got a date with him, and I'm sitting across, we're having dinner, and I said, so what's your longest term relationship? And he was in his mid 40s, and he said 6 months. And I went, 6 months? He goes, yeah. I go, check, please.
Oh my
He goes, what are you
God.
doing? I said, if at our age, if your longest relationship is 6 months, it's not the other person, it's you. And we're
Mm-hmm.
not a match. And
Mm-hmm.
I shook his hand. I said, it was a pleasure having dinner with you. Thank you very much. And I got up and left. And it might seem very abrupt, but I knew what I wanted.
I'm really no, I've been actually doing a lot of writing about this, and I did a whole solo podcast on how I found my current partner
Hmm.
energetically, spiritually, and how she reached out to me. It was really me saying no to the apps anymore,
Hmm.
not chasing. I just am going to do me. And I went on solo dates and all these things, and really it was the saying no to things. It allows for this whole energetic place of I know what's really for my highest good, and that's
Hmm.
what you were doing. You were like really laying that out. So I could talk about this for a gazillion years, but I want to talk about NASDF and
Sure.
how all of that came, because I know right now the listener. So I promise you, listeners, we are going to get to this right now. But yeah, like, you know, when you look back at your life and what experience shaped your understanding of what families truly need emotionally, financially, and structurally, like, was that kind of helping you create this, founding this new organization?
I think it was a culmination of a lot of things that I had gone through in my life. So I became a parent to an LGBTQ 13-year-old kid. We were part
Wow.
of a group, the first group ever that this woman, Amy, had put together through Child and Family Services that took in gay kids and matched them with gay couples and single individuals. And we were the first group. So
God,
the day I got my license, Amy said, here's your license, there's your kid. I'm like, whoa, I don't even know this kid. Can I go spend some time with him? She said, yes, he's homeless. Hurry it up. I need to place him in 2 days. So once I got, his name was Michael at the time. He's changed his name and his last name as well. And when I got him, a tremendous amount of challenges. It was not an easy process for both of us. I realized that a lot of the services he needed were not being provided. And when I would talk to the caseworkers, they would say, yes, we can't keep those people because we're not paying them enough, where they're overwhelmed. And I have nothing against the caseworkers, but I saw that the system was failing these kids. And I thought, I need to have an outlet that is big enough so my voice is loud enough for people to hear what we're talking about. So the reason why I use AARP as my example is they have 36 million members and advocate for Social Security, Medicare, and elder fraud. Congress won't make changes to Social Security unless they talk to AARP's lobbyists. That's what I want to be for foster care and family court reform,
that.
right? So that was one aspect. Then I get into real estate. My business partner is fighting for custody of her daughter from an abusive ex-husband that has a shit ton of money and
Mm,
keeps her in court. She is, she
tapped
made a
out.
decent living, but the legal fees were tremendous so
Yeah.
that she would be able to keep her daughter safe. And I would go to court with her and I would see this asshole and I would hear what the courts were delaying. They delayed it all the way until she was 16 years old.
Wow.
We
Wow.
were not business partners at the time, but we remained friends, and it was milking every dollar she had. And I thought that has to change. Then I meet my husband. He's a Miami Beach police officer. His best friend is also a Miami Beach police officer. He's trying to break away from his wife, who is abusive towards him and the kids, and he
Mm,
wants custody, and he's fighting the family court systems. And I'm seeing what troubles he's having. So, between these experiences, between the foster care and the family courts, and then other experiences that I said, I've got to be able to put some organization together where we can make the change in our society to better it
mhm.
and help people during the transition of changing their lives because they're getting a divorce. What I realize is when you Google divorce, you get 5 pages of attorneys before you get to resources and stuff. They're just not out there.
Agreed.
They are out there if you dig deep enough. And I have found
Yeah.
all those great organizations, the women's support groups, the men's support groups, the LGBTQ support groups, the mediators that are out there, the divorce coaches. I mean, you don't necessarily need to hire an attorney. You can get a mediator. You could file it yourself. There's
Yeah.
online divorce filings that you can do now. So all of those resources are under us. And then, hey, what are the things that you need when you're in that process? So I thought of everything until a friend called up and said, why don't you have a divorce registry? And I thought, that's brilliant. I hadn't thought of that. So now we have a divorce registry through Fresh Starts, which is another
Love it.
organization. Child custody issues. We've got an organization here in Florida that will help you for free to show you how to go ahead and get to figure out your structure with your children and the visits and things of that nature. All of that's under there. And I only charge $19 a month to support us to make sure that we can continue adding more products and services. And you get, I mean, even our real estate services, if you use one of our realtors, I get a 25% referral fee for referring that realtor because I'm also a realtor. I give that back to our members to offset their closing costs. So when they get to the closing table, they're saving somewhere between $5,000 to $7,000 or $8,000 depending on the price of the house, because that's not how we make our money. So give that back to our members. And when I said to my husband, we want to create a $1 billion business to give back, I was not able to find an investor to open up our company, so I had to self-fund this project. I want to be able to help other companies like us start their
Yeah.
businesses. I want to be able to help foster care groups fund them. I want to be able to give back to our LGBTQ community because I see that we're highly underfunded as well. I don't want to fund crypto or pharma or new apps or any of that shit. I want to be able to, people have great ideas that can help society. That's what we want to help fund.
I love that. So if there are people when they're listening to this episode, how can they help get started with something, and like almost like a chapter in their area, or
So
is there?
it's not necessarily a chapter. A lot of the
Okay.
support groups are online, especially for I thought there was a lack of dad support groups, so we made sure that we're still seeking them out. We found some great ones. A
Awesome.
lot, even the divorce coaches, a lot of them cater to women. We want to make sure that we find the ones that also cater to men. We want to, and Joy and I, Joy is my co-founder. We're an LGBTQ owned company. We want to make sure that every person we're dealing with is non-political, non-religious, and LGBTQ friendly. And yes, we are DEI friendly.
Yeah,
We're
complete.
DEI all day, right? So if we
Saying a three-letter word. I'm just kidding.
exactly. Because we want our community to feel as comfortable here as everybody else. And with the podcast that I do, a lot of these dad podcasts, I'm very clear. I'm gay. I'm married. And my divorce is called a non-divorce because at the time we were not able to get married. But the divorce
Mhm.
was still as bad as any other divorce. And I'm out there saying, yeah, it's called a non-divorce. Yeah.
I like that terminology.
Mm-hmm.
As a foster parent and advocate, you've seen families at some of their most vulnerable moments. What did those experiences teach you about resilience?
It humbled me a lot,
Mm.
especially with the experiences that I've gone through. I've always made good money since I got out of college. I'm a great salesperson. My dad used to say I could sell sand to Arabs and ice to Eskimos. It's but I never knew how to manage money. So when the recession hit, I literally lost everything. I was living
Mm.
in a big expensive house. I had a Mercedes and a BMW in the garage. I was living way above my means. And when the recession hit and you're in real estate, you went from making six figures to nothing in a day. Like
Mm.
literally in a day, everything stopped. And I remember opening up the refrigerator and thinking to myself, I have no money for food. And that was the first time in my life I literally had no money to feed my son or myself. And I just stared at it. And I'm living with my ex, who is living on the other side of the house, who's jacking up the AC intentionally. The electric bill's at $500-600. The electric company now wants an additional deposit, which then if I don't turn in the additional deposit, they're going to turn off the electricity, and the creditors are called. It was overwhelming. And what I realized is I have to figure out how to get out of bed in the morning.
Hmm.
And I tell people that what saved me truly is coming up with affirmations, coming up with and I know it sounds very simplistic, but because I was journaling, I was able to say what good is still going on in my life. I've got my health. I was able to get out of bed today.
Sitting in gratitude
Sitting in
is never
gratitude.
simple.
Yeah.
It is. It feels like it's um, a simple practice, right? A simple daily practice. I'm in a gratitude group. So it's staying in that present and finding something. It really can shift a whole day
And
by just being in gratitude
I,
over, wow, the sun's out. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything else than, wow, the sun's out and it feels amazing on my skin.
and thank God I had a dog at the time that could do 5 mile walks with me, and I would take her out every day,
Yes.
and I would say my gratitudes and my affirmations, and I had to this day. We're talking 20 years later. I still every day I get in the shower, I say my gratitudes and my affirmations because and when I get out of bed, I'm Jewish. I say the Shema to God, saying thank you God for allowing me to wake up in my body and allowing me to wake up in this home in here in St. Petersburg and with my husband, and that's before my feet hit the ground. Uh, Again, it sounds simplistic, but between that, the gratitudes, the affirmations, and my determination to make it work. Now, what I haven't shared is when I did break up with my ex, he spiraled downward. They foreclosed on his house. They took his car. He was heavily into drugs. We had to Baker Act him, and I had a dream one night that I was driving I was at a red light. He was banging on my window. I opened it. He was homeless, begging for food, and I woke up terrified. And as much as it was a horrible experience, I said, there's three things I got to make sure he has: a place to live, food in his belly, and health insurance. So, and my friends thought I was nuts because of how he had treated me. And that's where a lot of this came from, is because I saw he was not in a mental state to apply for food stamps. It was hard. They don't make that process easy. It took me hours to figure it out.
Wow.
It took me hours to try to find him funding. It took me hours I had to source, he was disabled or had some form of disability, so I wanted to get him on disability coverage, and it took me hours to get him in front of an attorney. I would take him to the attorneys. We had to go through 3 or 4 attorneys before we got to the right attorney to file for disability. It was hard finding him a place to live, and I realized, and I wasn't far off from where he was, right? Because I'm
Right.
trying to come back from the bottom as well, but
You just knew where to look for you had a better, well, you first of all weren't on drugs, so
correct.
you actually had a clear head,
Right.
right? Like actually understand, and with the insurance piece and with, just you being in real estate, like you had a lot more opportunity to advocate for him and also have the wherewithal, right, up
Mhm.
here to like really understand where the resources were. You
Well, and
knew
learn.
where
I
to,
had to learn.
yeah,
This is
you
not
had to learn through it osmosisly, right?
correct.
Through doing it.
I never had to do this for anybody before. Uh,
That's a labor of love too, right there.
for somebody who treated me ultimately like crap, and my friends just kept shaking their heads, going, "I don't know why you're doing this. I
That's
respect
a
it."
part of who you are and your legacy. Like you're not going to leave a man behind in that
No.
sense.
And here's how I knew my husband was going to be my husband is when I met him, I said, I'm not with my partner. I'm not with my former partner. I haven't been with him for a few years, but I'm in the process of helping him get housing, get that done. I explained everything to him, and he gave me the grace and said, "Yeah, go for it." And it was not, well, I'm
He
not going to let you
trusted
hang
you.
out.
It wasn't, yeah.
I'm not going to let you hang out with your ex. I'm not going to let you do all that. He was like, "Yeah, absolutely, I understand." And when they first met, I wasn't telling him that they were going to meet. I had a convertible at the time. Uh, my ex called and said, "Hey, do you have $20? I need $20 for food." And I drove by his place. I called him, and he came out, and I said, Lewis, Lorenzo, here's the 20. Got to go buy." And my husband was sitting very quietly in the car. He wasn't my husband at the time, and he said, "Don't ever do that again."
He just wanted a heads up. Yeah. Just a little heads up. That'd be great.
I appreciate what you're doing, but I need a heads up next time. I'm like, well, I wasn't sure how you were going to handle it.
That is so interesting. I think the best leaders are people who stay emotionally connected to that why, and how do you protect your heart while doing this heavy work?
Well, and my co-founder, let me just say, my co-founder had a horrible experience coming out, was homeless for a while, uh, was an alcoholic and has since been sober for the last 20 years or so, was in the military. I mean, her whole background makes her as compassionate, if not more. And we often get into discussions about how best to handle certain situations because I see it from one perspective, she sees it from an entirely different perspective. And we respect enough to give each other the grace to say, okay, I'll do it your way. because she
Yeah.
had a different experience. So, but now
Yeah.
you put the two of us together where I've handled one side, she's handled homelessness, and we're like, her passion is the prevention of intergenerational poverty. So and there's a lot of great models that are out there, and that's the other form of our advocacy is to be able to expand on those models to get people off the SNAP programs, to get them in positions where they can earn enough money that they can get off of government assistance and be self-sufficient. And that comes from her side. So it's really a perfect match from both of our past experiences.
So do you think having like it's almost like choosing the right partner can really make or break our life, and
Absolutely.
that includes in business as well. And so is there where you find that levity and kind of where you can process because you guys are in this together, you have her and working her end and you can,
And then
you
my
can
husband at
sort of
home, who's ultimately part of the business as well, because he helped finance the project.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's such a great balance. It took me 40 years to find the right business partner
yeah,
uh, because she balances me out. We don't always get along. We sometimes argue, but
sure.
I have to say, okay, I got to compromise. I got to do it her way, and she's got to do it my way. And then I come home and my husband has a different perspective. So, and my husband is one of the has a creative mind and a business mind at the same time.
That's
So,
rare.
and again, he's more mature than I am. So, and he's got great stuff. So, I mean, we recently we had a discussion about mental health care month, and I had put out a video, and she has gone through a different mental health journey and said, "Can you please take that down? It's what everybody is telling the public that they need to hear, and that's not the reality. I will do one." And I was like, oh, you know how long that took me? It took me an hour and a half to do that video. Blah, 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 blah. And my husband's like, so what you should do is get a calendar, put it in the wall, and who's taking care of what social event. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, okay. But he was right. And she came up with a better video that got an amazing response with people texting us saying, you're so on cue with this. You're so on point. And I thought, that is a subject matter that she knows better than I do.
Yeah. So what have you learned from her? What have you learned within that process?
Compromise and again being humble. I've never thought I have all the answers. I
Yeah.
always I don't want to ever be the smartest guy in my company. I always look for people that are smarter and have more success than I have to follow what they're doing or learn from what they're doing. And Joy has had her own experiences that I need to, I mean, again, when she came to work for me, she's on the spectrum. And the first thing I said to her is, I've never worked with somebody on the spectrum before. How, as your employer, can work best for somebody that has the disabilities that you have? And she got very emotional and said, nobody's ever asked me that question. And I'm like, well, I know the potential. You're highly intelligent. You're great at what you do. How can I make it better? And we had a
Mm,
whole discussion on that. So it continues on in our business that, I've had to share with her what the gray area looks like because she's very white and I'm very gray. It's got to be 100% correct. I'm like, no, it can be 80% correct. There's a gray zone. Let me show you what that is. And she's had to learn how to be in that gray zone when it
and
comes
for
to
her, that's flexibility, right?
correct.
Probably. Yeah. Being a little more flexible and open. It sounds like you really leave your ego at the door when it comes to all of this. I think you have to in order for
Absolutely.
it to actually work. It's because at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about what your foundation can do for others. And I think so. What's your North Star right now?
What's my ultimate goal? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Yeah. What's the big focus right now? What's that?
Memberships.
Yeah.
I need
Membership.
members. And the reason is there's certain thresholds. When I have 5,000 members, my 3 free mental health care sessions go to 8 free mental health care sessions per condition.
Oh,
So if you have anxiety and depression, you get 16 free mental health care sessions and then discounted sessions thereafter. So, and then I can go to certain retailers and ask them for discount. I call it the Costco effect. The bigger we get, the more retailers and people are going to want to do business with us. They're going to start coming to us instead of me going to them and saying, what can I
yes.
do to help out your members?
So the members, so who are your members right now? And who are you missing? Who do you feel as a group that's missing?
My members are between 25 to 55 years old. They're people who are in the process of getting a divorce. There are single families out there that have kids. what's missing is more of my LGBTQ community, because our ability to get married is so young.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us have gone through divorce already. Some have not. I think it's a new experience for them. I would specifically say that when you do, like my son who got a divorce from his husband, I kept saying, join the association. He's like, I don't need it. I work for Delta Airlines. They give us a bunch of benefits. I'm like, but they don't have the benefits that we have. And then
Yeah.
he eventually joined. He's like, oh, look at that. I can get free mental health care, and I can get an attorney, or maybe we don't use an attorney. So
Yeah.
I need more of the LGBT community to reach out and say, hey, this is really good. And oh, by the way, I am a single parent because I have a foster child, or I decided to have a child on my own, and I can use your services. That those early childhood education discounts are great. Uh,
Yeah. And this is me just being my curious self because it's popping in. Have Do you work with any current corporations, companies that have want to offer what you guys have as part of their perks and, for their current employees?
we have no, we have not. We work so.
Is that even doable?
Oh,
Like, I'm just
absolutely.
curious.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
so a friend of mine joined another real estate company that provided benefits, which as realtors we don't get. And I looked at the benefits and thought, oh, I could do better than that through my association. So I actually put together 18 benefits for realtors that nobody's ever done before, and I reached
Love
out.
that.
Yeah, and I reached out to EXP. I reached out to a lot of companies, and believe it or not, they don't want to offer and I got the cost down to $10 per agent per month
Oh my
for these
God.
18 benefits, but 100% of them have to join. It can't be like, oh, I got 3 agents out of 5,000 to
Right.
join. No, it's got to be all 5,000 agents. That's why it's so cheap. And if you get me the 5,000 agents, I can get more products in there for the same price.
Yeah.
So it was a matter of trying to sell it to the brokerages. And by the way, the company that is providing the benefits is an LGBT, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but they are an LGBTQ owned company. And when I finally got through to the CEO, he was like, "I don't need your stuff. I already got this." I'm like, "Well, let me have a conversation with you and see if I can provide more stuff than what you've got." And it was like,
This is the insurance person in you right here. Like,
correct, right?
you know how to
And these were
frame it.
non-insurance benefits. It has nothing to do with the child support stuff. These
Yeah.
are benefits we all need, especially as
So
realtors.
So anybody who's working or owns a business, right? Like who's an entrepreneur and has employees, what's the smallest company you could give good benefits to? Like,
I worked at a company with 100 employees.
okay, I mean then that's great. Like now we know like what that minimum is, and
Yeah.
I think that's important to. I think that could be a cool vertical, like an
Well,
additional,
well, they
you
get the
know.
membership to NASDF. They get whatever additional benefits are going to go into the system. So I mean, these are different benefits than our normal members get. But and that's what I was trying to tell real estate companies is like I'm going to get divorce leads for people who need to sell their house, and if you're part of the benefit program, you're going to get those leads for
Yeah,
free.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, well, I don't know, anyhow, I'm
I
not going to get
don't
it.
understand.
But I'll tell you what
So what?
I'll tell you what I am still looking for investors. Uh,
Okay.
if we had another $1 million in our pocket, it enables us to really blow our marketing out. I have a great publicist. I love her to death. I had to go through 3 different PR firms to get to the right publicist. She's getting me on TV. She's hopefully going to put me on the Today Show and all this other stuff, which is great. But
Amazing.
if I had more money, I could
Yeah.
do a lot more social media and a lot more things to get the word out. So we are still looking for an investor for a portion of
Here.
the company,
Yeah.
and you will more than make up for whatever investment you're going to get. This is going to be a $1 billion business because of who we're going. We have 26 million single and divorced couples out there throughout the United States, and 2 million people getting divorced every year. My dad always said, do a worst case scenario. What's 1/2 of 1% of those people?
Yeah.
That's 26,000 people. I would be
Yeah.
doing very well financially if we had 26,000 members.
That's
So
amazing.
it's a great investment. And we are looking for companies to partner with to either add on as a resource for our members, or if you want to help out in some way, or you want to do a partnership, we are open and willing.
I love that. So what's giving you hope right now?
there's a lot. So the success of this company is I am so vested in seeing this succeed. I'm going to sound very voodoo-y, but I've done journeys where I have a very clear vision. The universe has given me a very clear vision of where this is going.
Yeah.
And I see us having like a TED talk for people who are restarting their lives,
Yeah.
where we have lobbyists in Washington D.C. lobbying for family court reform, foster care reform, and the prevention of intergenerational conflict. I see it all very clearly. That's my big goal, and the second is my granddaughter.
Aw. Hey, kids are always such a great why.
Yeah,
So at the end, I always do like a little rapid fire. Are you ready?
yeah,
Okay. Coffee or tea?
coffee.
Ooh, what do you put in it?
So I do
Anything?
mushroom coffee.
Oh yeah, I love that. Like Four Sigmatic, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of coffee has mold in it that I've learned. So it
Yeah.
depends where you get it. And this mushroom coffee is amazing because it also has lots of lion's mane, which I need for my brain.
Yeah. No, that's great. One word your closest friends would use to describe you. Crazy. No, I'm just kidding.
Not funny and
No.
um, uh, that like if you need something done, call Ron because it's like I'm
Do
constantly
like a do-gooder, like a
yeah
go getter.
go get
Or we could say a yenta. We're both Jewish.
well I get to somebody who goes around gossiping. I don't necessarily do that, but
No, but there's a business I remember in the 80s that I saw in LA, and it was called Renta Yenta,
there you go.
you know? A book that changed your perspective on life, if there is one.
There is one. Um, I used to. Oh God, I can't. Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting by Lynn Grabhorn.
Mm,
It's basically about manifesting, but so I think her book came out before The Secret, and
mm-hmm.
she takes The Secret and delves deep into it, and
Mm.
really gives you a complete vision of how to manifest. Uh,
Oh, I have an Audible credit. I'm going to totally download that.
yeah, everybody I've suggested the book to have come back and said this is like a new Bible, and I'm like, no, I get it. So it's called Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting by Lynn Grabhorn. It's
I love
probably one of
that.
my more favorite books.
If you could have dinner with anyone, past or present, who would it be and why?
One would be Golda Meir
Mm,
because she came from, I mean, what she accomplished,
yeah.
given everything that was going after her at the time, and the grace that she did it with.
Hmm.
I would have to say I'd love to have dinner with the Obamas.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, I'd love
Me
to have
too.
Michelle as my personal friend.
100%. I just want to dance and hang out with her.
Exactly, and of course Obama himself. Um,
Yep.
and who else would I want? I'd have to think about that one because there's so many of them. But
Yeah, there's
that's a
so
good
many good people. And then my final question is, what does living out loud mean to you?
being you. And when I tell
Being
people
me? I'm just kidding.
exactly, I want to be Michelle Flamer. You know, when I had a friend say to me, "You say the word husband so easily.
Hmm.
Aren't you afraid of people having some kind of kickback?" And I said, "Fuck them." I mean,
Yeah.
the more you say husband, the more I make it sound natural, the more they're going to
Yeah.
find it to be natural.
Yes.
And I
Normalizing it.
normalizing it. Yeah, like, well, my husband and I, ba, 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 ba. And when I was in the insurance industry, it's a more conservative industry. I probably didn't say it. Of course, I wasn't married at the time, but I kind of wasn't as upfront with it. And now my attitude is, and I do a lot of podcasts with a
Yeah.
lot of straight people. And
Yeah.
I am very upfront by saying, my husband and I, ba, 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 ba. And probably 95% of the time I get no reaction, which is great. I don't want a reaction because
Yeah.
that's how I want it to be. So my
Yeah.
living out is by being very proud that I'm married to a man, and my son is gay, and I've
Yeah.
got a beautiful granddaughter, and I'm living my true self,
And that is
and,
exactly
and I'm a
where
proud
we need
Jew.
to be.
So I come from Holocaust survivors.
Hmm.
I've heard the stories, I've seen it. So because of that, I realized I have to have a voice,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a voice of love. but I'm also
Yes.
going to let people know what my thoughts are. So if you have an issue with it, let me know. I'll be more than happy to take the challenge.
I love that. Ron, thank you so much for
Cool.
joining me today. Really appreciate it. And I'm so excited that my listeners get to learn about you. And yeah, I'm glad to know you now too.
I think we're going to be besties.
Yeah, we
I
pretty
already
much
made it.
are.
We're besties.
We're done. That's pretty much it. Hey, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And listeners, thank you so much for, listening to this conversation as always, and share, subscribe, because sharing is caring. So appreciate that.
If you liked this episode, please hit the follow button, and remember, sharing is caring. Until next week, stay proud, stay loud.